Hey everyone, and thanks for coming to Read On. This is our 61st show, and actually I think you guys are our year anniversary that we've been on the air for a year. Yay!
Cool.
So hopefully we're still going to be going strong, and we still got a whole bunch of authors to bring you guys later this year as well. Okay, so today we have authors Christy Cook. She is the author of the new release Magnolia, as well as the trilogy. Is it the Haven trilogy or is it Winter Haven trilogy? I wasn't sure.
I don't think anybody really knows for sure. You can call it either.
It happened with another vampire book I was reading. I thought it was one thing, and it wasn't. As well as be dropping books on the floor. It's fine. As well as Romily Bernard of Remember Me and Find Me. No, you can't have this copy because it's mine. As well as Mindy Mcginnis of Not a Drop to Drink and A Handful of Dust. And these are actually the copies, other than Find Me, that you guys are winning today. And No Haven, because that one's mine too. All right, so first up, we'll let everybody introduce themselves. And here is Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy Cook. I am the author of the new release Magnolia, which is a realistic set contemporary fiction YA, and before that I wrote the Haven or Winter Haven trilogy, Haven Mirage and Eternal. That's it.
I love these covers.
Okay, I'm Mindy Mcginnis. I am the author of Not a Drop to Drink and In a Handful of Dust, which will be coming out September 23rd. They're post-apocalyptic survival tales set in a world where drinkable water is almost non-existent.
And I'm Romily Bernard. I wrote the Find Me series, which, Remember Me, the second one comes out September 23rd with Mindy. Yay! And I'm a fan of both Mindy and Kristi's. I've read both their books. I do YA hackers, sort of like a Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, but for a more of a teenage audience.
I'm bad. The only book out of all of these that I've actually read is Magnolia. I'm so behind. Okay, so we're going to get started on questions. And the first one for today is, did you know how you wanted your book to end when you started writing?
Oh, starting with me, I guess?
Yep.
Oh, I totally knew how it was going to end. It was one of those where I pretty much had written the very last couple paragraphs pretty much after I'd written maybe the first 5 pages. So I knew exactly how it was going to end. It was just a matter of getting there.
I am a really big pantser when I write. I usually don't know what's going to happen. In the case of Not a Drop to Drink, I actually knew both the first line and the last line of the book, but I honestly didn't know what was going to happen to get from point A to point B. I let the story grow organically as I write. I don't do any planning at all. So no, I didn't know how it was going to end, which might sound odd since I knew what the last line was, but I didn't necessarily know who got to say it. I'll put it that way.
I actually didn't know who my bad guy was. I didn't know what my ending was going to be. Mine was, yeah, I was pretty much, I had to pants the whole thing, which is kind of my process, but I think even at one point I was actually looking at the love interest and thinking, what would happen if I made him the bad guy? And yeah, so when I finally got to the ending, it was a bit of a surprise to me as well.
All right, the next question is, where are you from and where are you right now?
I am from all over the South. I guess I was born in Georgia, but my father was in the military and was a federal investigator, so I moved all over Florida and Georgia and Louisiana, and then I went to college in Mississippi, so I just claimed the whole Southeast. But now I live in New York City, actually, in the Riverdale section of the Bronx. And I've lived here for like 20-something years, so I guess I'm a New Yorker now.
I am from Ohio, and I'm in Ohio right now. And at any given moment, I am probably in Ohio.
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina originally, and we've been in Atlanta for the past little bit. So I'm in Atlanta right now, and no plans to move. Like I have a personal commitment that I never go above the Mason-Dixon line after like October 31st because I don't do snow. So it limits my where I'm willing to go and live. I don't know how you guys, you New Yorkers and Ohioans do it. I really don't. I can't even handle love.
Yeah, I just hate it. I just wish I was back down. In Atlanta would be fine, actually.
We would love to have you come back.
I kind of miss the snow, though. My 3-year-old, she hasn't seen the snow. Okay, next question is, have you ever read the Harry Potter books?
Oh, of course I've read the Harry Potter books. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and I had kids that were pretty much the right age. They were toddlers when the first one came out, so by the second movie, my younger one was 24 months. She saw it in the theater, along with my older one, who was probably, I don't know, 3 or something. And they have grown up with Harry Potter. So I had already read, each as they came out. And they were with me pretty much from maybe the 4th book on for every midnight party. It's such a huge part of their lives that it's always been a huge part of my life too.
Yes, I have read them. My sister calls me a lit snob. That's not actually what she calls me. What she calls me actually rhymes, but I'm not going to say it. But she always said that I wouldn't read what was popular because I was that term. And I actually resisted reading Harry Potter books until the 4th one came out. And my sister basically challenged me and said that I had to read them, and I told her that if she read those, if I read those, she had to read the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon, which I've been reading Diana Gabaldon since the 90s. I was also reading George R.R. Martin in the 90s, so obviously I was like way ahead of popular culture. But I made my sister read Outlander, and I read Harry Potter, and then I was one of those people that on July 7th of 2007, which I think that was when the last one came out, I was, at my mailbox waiting for the Deathly Hallows, so excited. So, I actually wrote a really big blog post on how you should resist the extremely popular just because you think that you're better than that, because you're probably going to miss out on something really awesome if you do that, because I almost missed out. I almost stuck my nose up in the air at Harry Potter, and that would have been a big loss.
I definitely read the Harry Potter books as well. My favorite is Prisoner of Azkaban, and I was in Orlando this winter actually, and I have a Harry Potter Quidditch jersey, which I totally wore unironically. Paraded that sucker straight through the airport. I was proud to wear it. I loved it. And Mindy, we have to get together and talk about the Outlander series, because I tried that in the 90s too, and I hated Jamie so much. I hate him. I wanted to rip his arm off and beat him with the wet end. So I'd love to hear what kept you going, because that book was a wall banger for me. But yeah.
Because you got to the spanking scene. That's what happened, right?
Yes, exactly. And I was like, and we're done. Yeah, that was the end of it for me. I haven't picked them up since.
See, I was just going to say that I think they both won.
Well, you know what? If we do that, we'll have to wear our jerseys, because I have that jersey too from Orlando.
Do you really? That's awesome. See, if we ever do a signing together, we'll have to wear matching jerseys. It'll be awesome.
Awesome.
These books right here behind me, that's all nothing but the Outlander series, and I have the rest of them over here that I just packed them all down so I could read them.
People love
Really
them. I
good.
feel like such an idiot because like everybody's talking about it in the black sheep. It's terrible. But yeah, no, I just couldn't get
Okay.
past it. Maybe I should
It's
try it
okay.
again.
I mean, they're so thick. They're so thick.
Yeah, but they're so worth it.
I can't afford stars, so I was like, this is my fix for it. I'll just read the books.
I don't
Okay,
have stars either. I don't have cable.
You don't have cable?
I live for Saturday nights now just to watch Outlander, and there's only been 2 episodes, and it's like I can't wait for Saturdays now.
So let's see, on the mention of Harry Potter, have any of you been to the Harry Potter world at Universal?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was awesome. Awesome.
I'm guessing you haven't been to the section, though, right?
I haven't been to the new one. I guess the new one just opened this summer, but I haven't been to that section yet.
I love having
I haven't done the new one. The old one was so awesome. Like the ride that's up like in the castle when you're riding your broomstick and the actual like the Dementor comes up and the light is going. I actually screamed. It actually scared me. It was awesome.
I love my 3-year-old. She loves being able to ride the train now. It's so much fun. The next question is via Google Plus, and it says, Kristi, I love finding all the Romeo and Juliet pieces in Magnolia. Did you intend Magnolia to reflect Romeo and Juliet when you started writing it?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the beginning seed for the story, actually, was that it was going to be kind of a reverse Romeo and Juliet. I know there's already been a bunch of retellings where they follow the story. There was one by even a Simon & Schuster author, but I wanted to do the complete opposite, where instead of the families feuding and the kids fall in love, that the families love each other and the kids are feuding. So that was always the original seed of the story. People might have noticed that every major character from Romeo and Juliet has a counterpart in Magnolia. Their name starts with the same letter, at least, and they kind of maybe play a similar role. But plot-wise, it obviously passed. There is a balcony scene in Magnolia, but it's kind of the opposite. Instead of declaring love, they're declaring hate. And other than that, the plot doesn't exactly follow any of the pattern, but it definitely was based on the seed of the opposite of Romeo and Juliet.
All right. The next question is, how did you come up with the idea of your books?
I guess I'll pass because I kind of just answered that one.
I actually got the idea after watching a documentary because, unfortunately, lack of fresh water is a very plausible situation, as people out in California will tell you right now. I watched a documentary called Blue Gold, which is very, very alarming, and you should go watch it and be alarmed. And I dreamt that night, because I have a pond in my backyard. It won't surprise anyone to learn. I have a pond, and I love it. And this documentary is so frightening that I was watching it. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, but I have the pond, so I'll be okay. And I dreamt that night that I was teaching a young girl how to operate a rifle so that she could help me protect the pond. And I woke up and I thought, wow, that could be a novel. And what kind of person is that little girl going to grow up to be? That was the
Sorry, barking dog.
That's okay.
There. I muted the barking dog.
There you go. Go ahead, Romily. I'm done.
That's a really cool. I knew about Blue Gold being your inspiration, Mindy, but I didn't know that there was actually a dream involved. I'm always kind of fascinated when writers talk about like how they got a vision or something like that, because like I'm like such a mechanical writer. I don't get that cool stuff. I don't have those cool stories. Like I had an idea for a girl hacker who was like she was trying to get work done while a cop circled her house and tried to get in, which is pretty much like that's the start of Find Me. But I didn't have any idea like why she was a hacker, and I didn't have any idea like why he was trying to get in her house or why he was dirty and they didn't like each other. So that I pretty much had to like sit down and sort of like start puzzling that out, which I mean left probably plot holes that I could drive a Volkswagen through in my first draft. But then I had to, I fixed them. But yeah, it's always so cool to me to hear how other people get inspired. Mine pretty much just kick-started off of that one scene, and then I just sort of took off with it. A lot of what if, and how can I make this worse? Oh, does she think she's having a good day? Well, I'm going to make that worse.
The next question is, what do you think is more important, characters or plot?
Hopefully my dog will stop barking long enough for me to answer. For me, I am a total character-driven writer. It always starts with the characters for me, and every bit of the development of the plot comes from the characters and the kind of characters that they are. Plot is really, really hard for me, and that's always a struggle to find the perfect plot for the characters. So for me, definitely characters. And when I'm reading a book, if I love the characters, I don't really care so much what the plot is. Whereas you could have a book with the most fabulous plot ever, and if I'm not invested in the characters, I won't be that interested in it. So for me, definitely 100% characters over plot. I mean, and when you can do both well, like I think The Hunger Games is a perfect example of both done equally well. The characters are fabulous and engaging, and the plot is incredible and engaging. To me, that's like a home run. I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I agree with Kristi 100% because you have to care about the characters as if they were real people. The hardest thing about writing is that we have to convince perfect strangers to care about things that never happen to people that don't exist. And the first step into that is making the people exist, making them seem like real people, and making the reader care about them. Because if they don't care about them and they die, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can die. They can get their head bit off by a shark. They can have the coolest death scene that has ever been thought up, plot-wise, but it doesn't matter because it has no emotional resonance with the reader. So, yeah, character above plot always.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Kristi and Mindy on that. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like, when you're talking about, like, the books you love, you're usually bringing up, oh, my gosh, this character was so awesome. It's like, oh, I just thought that, Finnick was so hilarious. I mean, it just, or Katniss, oh, my gosh, I loved her attitude, to bounce off that Hunger Games point. You don't usually talk about like, oh my gosh, that plot twist was just so great. Although there are books, that you do have that great plot twist, and people do like, oh my gosh, I was so shocked. But for the most part, I mean, it's the characters that we get attached to, and yeah, I mean, I'll forgive almost any type of plot if you've got me hooked in with the characters. I'm bad about that.
The next question is, what do you do when you are not writing?
Oh, man, when I'm not writing, I'm thinking about what I should be writing pretty much all the time. I dance. I take ballet classes, and I'm a mom. I've got two now teenage daughters, a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old, so keeping up with their activities is a big part of my day. And I read like crazy, like a book a night if I can. I'm one of those people that can't start a book and then just put it down. If it's a good book, I have to read the whole thing in one sitting, so I'm often up to the wee hours finishing a book.
Yeah, I'm really bad with my writing. The question is when you're not writing, what are you doing? And the truth is that I'm usually not writing. I am really bad about spurt writing. I will write a book in 2 months, 3 months. My book that's coming out in 2015, I wrote 3/4 of it in about 2 weeks. I just put off writing all the time because it's hard. It's really hard. So you find other things that you would rather do. And reading is one of those things. I usually read 50 to 80 books a year. So I'm always reading, but I go to the gym like 2 or 3 times a week. I have a canoe, I garden, I can a lot of my own food. If I can be outdoors, I'm outdoors, and if I can't, if I'm indoors, then I'm probably reading. And writing, if I'm feeling really useful, or if I have a deadline, usually that's when I start writing. It's when I have a deadline.
Like when the world decides to come to an end, we're coming to your house because you can your own food and you have that pond in the backyard.
Yeah, my house is apocalypse destination #1. It's full. I got to tell you, like everybody that I meet is like, we're coming to your house, and I don't know. I welcome you if you have a skill. I'll put it that way.
Right?
Shoot. I'm probably the nicest when I am writing. When I'm not writing, I'm kind of a pain in the rear to be around. So pretty much everyone around here prefers me to actually have a project that's moving forward. Although I totally agree with Mindy, it's hard, and there are days that I just want to like sit in a corner and pet the wall. Just sob quietly to myself, because why couldn't I have gotten an accountant's brain? I mean, seriously. But I have a horse. I have Tempe. Some of you may have seen like some of the goofy Facebook posts and Twitter posts that we do. We do dressage and eventing. So it's like a lot of running and jumping, and that's the closest I've ever been able to get to writing that kind of fixes my brain in the same sort of way. That makes me a nice person to be around. So I tried yoga for a while, but I actually like flunked out because I can't do like that whole like, oh, focus on your breathing and be still. Like, it drives me bonkers. And so when the lady like grabbed my knee and she was like, stop it, just like settle down, stop vibrating, because I didn't even realize I was bouncing my knee. I had like this vision of like ripping her arm off. I mean, it just, I could not take it. And that's when I realized yoga was not for me, but clearly writing and writing are. So at least that's working out for me. Heaven help me when they stop.
To try Zumba, the Zuma or whatever.
I know, maybe something like kickboxing. I don't know. Apparently, I have aggression. I'm only 5'2", so like people push me around a fair amount, and I think it makes me like my subconscious is angry.
5'2". Us short people have to stick together.
I'm 5'2" too. How funny.
We're all
really? Oh, great. I'm 5'9", so now I feel like a bully.
No.
My husband, he's 6'2", excuse me. He is so tall. I feel so short. I'm like the shortest person in the house other than the kids. Okay, so the next question is, if you had to write a book with someone, and they still have to be alive, who would it be, and what do you think the book would be about?
Oh man, that's a really hard question.
I love this question.
It's a hard question. I don't know. You're going to have to pass. Come back to me while I think about it.
I actually have an answer ready to go. Because,
go.
Yeah, okay. This is something that I've actually talked about with a friend of mine that's a writer. Kate Carries Quinn, who wrote Another Little Piece and Don't You Forget About Me. She's also a Harper author. She and I have talked about working together sometime, and we have no idea what it would be about, but we already have a title, and it would be called Something Dark and Nasty.
Ooh. Actually,
yeah, because that's the only thing that Kate and I would be able. That's Kate right there. That's the only thing. Anything that Kate and I combined to make one thing, it would be something dark and nasty.
Okay, can you run the question by me one more time? I'm all of a sudden like transfixed by the idea of Mindy and Kate working together, and my ADD has just gone to that place. I'm sorry. I loved Another Little Piece. Like, oh my gosh,
I read it. I got it from the bookstore. I said if you had to write a book with another author that's alive, Who would it be, and what do you think the book would be about?
Oh, okay, yeah. This one's a slam dunk for me too. Natalie Richards, who wrote 6 Months Later. It's a Yalza pick. She's amazing, and I can't believe that I actually get lucky enough to critique with her, because she has seen some nasty, rough drafts from me, and yet she still continues to take my phone calls, which amazes me. Her next. Her next novel comes out January of 2015. It's called Gone Too Far. And we actually have talked about working together on something else, but we probably end up fighting over who got to write the troubled boy figure, because we like troubled boy or heroes, excuse me. We like troubled heroines too, now that I think about it. Yeah, doing something with like dual POV would be really fun with her, but yeah, I'm not sure who would get to write the boy. We'd probably have to flip for it.
Natalie's so cool. I get to see her.
That's something else to give away, because that's her book. I have ARCs all over this house, I swear.
Nice.
Okay. And Kristi, did you come up with anything, or?
Well, the only thing that I came up with, I don't know if it really answers the question, is I actually am working on a co-writing project right now. And it sounds really weird. I'm actually writing a middle grade manuscript with my 13-year-old daughter. Both my kids are writing. They spend it. It's funny, especially in the summertime, there's times where all three of us are at our computers working. You know, everybody's writing. But my 13-year-old, something happened with some friends of hers at school, and it sparked an idea, and we started talking about it. And the next thing I knew, we plotted out an entire book, and I think we've written about 3 chapters now. And she's doing people think, oh, when you're writing a book with your 13-year-old and you're a published author, you're doing the writing, but she's actually legitimately, like, there's times I've left her at the keyboard and, gone for an hour and come back, to the manuscript. So she does a lot of the primary writing, and in fact, she's written pretty much most of the dialogue. So, other than that, I don't know that I have time for any other co-writing.
Okay, can I interrupt to ask if I can borrow Kristi's daughter? I would love to be able to just come back like an hour later and have more of my manuscript done. Where do I sign up for that? How do I get one?
Isn't that great? I have to say that was the best thing ever. And not only that, I'm getting like authentic 13-year-old dialogue from a 13-year-old. So if anybody ever says, oh, nobody would ever say that, I'm like, well, obviously a 13-year-old would say that. But she did.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy for you.
Okay, the next question is that if your book was going to be picked up, would you want it to be picked up as a movie or a TV series? And do you know who you'd want to play your main characters?
Me first again. If it was Magnolia, that would just be a movie. There's not enough going on to be more than that. And it's funny, I'm a big fan of the Fault in Our Stars movie, and I was really pleased to see after it came out that Ansel Elgort is 6'4". Completely coincidentally enough, Ryder in Magnolia is 6'4", and they both have brown eyes, so hey, he'd be great. As far as like the Haven series, though, that would be a TV show. I mean, I could see that. I'd much rather that be a TV show. There's just so, it's a longer series, and I would hate to see it try to condense it into a few hours. And I don't even care who plays anybody.
This is an easy one for me because Not a Drop to Drink was already picked up for film by Fickle Fish Films, which is the production company that Stephanie Meyer owns. So that's already settled, which is nice. I don't really have any thoughts, though, as far as casting, because I don't know a lot of people see their characters, and I don't. I usually don't even know what color their hair is or their eyes or anything like that. I like to leave it to my reader to envision them the way that they want. I've actually seen people say, I wish you would describe Lynn more, or describe, whoever, describe your characters more. And I actively resist that because I know when I was a teen, I like to picture myself in the book and my friends or my enemies or you name it. I wanted to picture these characters the way I wanted to picture them. So if the author's description didn't jive with my own perception of how I wanted the character to look, it would pull me out of the story. So I actually avoid describing my characters, and I find that useful because when and if the movie is made, I absolutely cannot be disappointed because I don't know what they look like, so it's perfect.
I understand where Mindy's coming from. I actually had no real idea like what Wick looked like. I'm not super big on hair color and eye color. It just it's the same thing. It's like it pulls me out of the story. I want the characters the way I want them. But eventually, when we had to really kind of commit to, she had to look like something. That's professionalism for you right there. I got pushed up against a wall, and yeah, I made a decision. But I kind of think more like Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield would be really cute, you know, because he's kind of tall and skinny, like, you know, Griff, and she's got the blonde hair that Wick has when she's not dyeing it. I think it would work better as like a television series, to be honest. There's a lot more that you could actually do. You know, with the Wick stuff, with the hacking and things like that, that would probably lend itself to sort of a fun series. It's been compared to Veronica Mars, a little bit, a bit darker, but yeah. So I think a television series might be kind of fun.
Now your cover is different though, because for Find Me, isn't it? Because the UK copy, isn't she black, or she just has like curly hair or something?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, actually, they did a silhouette for the first one in the UK, where it's like a black silhouette, and then the Taiwanese cover, she has brown hair and brown eyes, and then the I think it's the Brazilian cover. They actually gave her the red hair. So yeah, it's kind of scattered all over the place. I'm interested to see what they do with the second one.
Yeah, because that kind of threw me off when I was making the buttons for this.
Sorry.
Hold on. Okay.
Always
have you ever basically somebody that you know? And we'll go to Mindy.
Whoa! Have I ever done Bog Dark what?
Have you ever based a character after somebody that you know?
No, that's really dangerous. You don't want to do that. It doesn't matter, like, because I wouldn't even consider it, because that's just asking for trouble. And it doesn't matter when you avoid it, because you still think that it's them. So I guess really you might as well go ahead and do it. But no, I don't base it on anyone. It's not worth the emotional entanglements. The dog agrees.
Stop barking. But I 100% agree with that. I don't base anybody on. I mean, sometimes I'll base it on, like, Ryder's a football player, and there's some football players that I like to watch play. So, you know, physical elements like that. But no, not people that I know. Too dangerous. She's right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've never based any of my characters off of that. But sometimes like stuff leaks in and you don't realize it. Like I have a critique partner who accidentally named a teenage, she writes Victorians, and so she named a teenage pregnancy sort of victim case where there was rape involved, and it was very tragic, and she didn't realize that she named it, her character was Sally Kirkpatrick, and then we have a critique partner who is being published now in Southern Fiction who's Sally Kilpatrick, and she didn't realize it until she was about to send it to her editor that she had accidentally named her poor teen pregnancy case, like after one of our critique partners. And what's really sad is none of us caught up with it until like that final draft. So again, professionalism. My name is Romily Bernard.
Oh, yes.
Okay. The next one is from Facebook. Do any of you guys write under a pen name? If you do, you don't have to tell us what your real name is, of course.
If I did, I wouldn't tell you.
I actually, before I started writing YA, I wrote historical romance. Well, and one NASCAR romance, too. But it's not really a pen name. It's just a longer version of my real name, Christy Cook. And then I had a few historical romances as Christy Astor. But they're so far different from what I write in YA, and just completely, different type of books. It's not that I, use a pen name because I'm trying to hide. They're just completely different books with different kind of readership. But
well, yeah, MJ Putney does that. She's MJ Putney, and then she's what is it? And then like her full name for her Mary Jo Putney for her romance stuff. It makes it easier because then you know that if it's under this, then it's teen. If it's under this, then it's for adult.
Exactly. It's sort of a branding issue. Like my Christy Astor books are a little steamier than my Christina Cook books, and then my Christy Cook books are YA.
That works.
Right, under a pen name. I don't have anything under a pen name. I don't have any intention of ever doing that. If I did, because I most of the time when you see that, it's because, like Kristi just said, it's because you're writing romance or NA sometimes, or maybe even erotica, and you're writing something that is not suitable for your YA audience, and so you pick up a different name so that you're not leading them into content that maybe they're not ready for yet. But I don't ever see myself writing a romance. Definitely not erotica, unless it was like humorous erotica, because come on. But yeah, no, just me, my name.
Yeah, I write under my name too. It never actually even occurred to me to use a pen name, which was fine until like my coworkers caught up with it, and then all of a sudden had lots and lots of questions. And also, I got sent naked pictures of this guy who was able to track me down. And, like, and who does that? I mean, who says hello by like, here's a picture of me naked? That's just
wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I know.
Did you see
like,
that
I don't
tweet?
regret like I didn't think I was ever going to regret like not using a pen name, but now I kind of think about like maybe I should have used a pen name. Or now I just have a rule that if you send me naked pictures of yourself, I'm going to put it up on the internet and then I'm going to make fun of it.
That's perfect.
Send me naked
Did you
pictures.
see? There was a tweet that I retweeted the other day. There's this machine you can buy now. It's like a garlic press, but it's for a hot dog, and it just cuts it, in sections, and you can download that, and you just send that back to people that send you,
There
naked.
you go.
Just send them a picture of hot dogs in pieces, and they'll leave you alone.
The next question is, what book are you working on right now, writing and reading?
Working on writing right now. I'm working on the middle grade manuscript that I mentioned, and then I'm supposed to be working on my next contemporary YA, which I'm just like Mindy in that I'm mostly not writing, and then I'm writing in spurts. So I'm mostly not writing that book right now, but I am thinking about it a lot.
That counts.
It definitely counts. It's the biggest part of the process for me, because I'm a spurt writer like you. Then the deadline comes along and I write it in a month or so. But most of the time I'm thinking about it. So, and as far as reading, like working on what I'm reading right now, is that the other half of that question? Well, I just finished Isla and Happily Ever After, which I've been waiting so excitedly for so long. And now I'm actually rereading the Outlander series, which I also first read back in the 90s and loved, although I think I only got to like the 4th book, and then I sort of lost steam with it. So now I started back over with the 1st book, and I'm now on, I think, the 3rd, and this time I hope to actually get through to the whole end.
Well, you are in for a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had forgotten how much I liked it. I was really excited that I actually liked it as much as I remembered liking it.
Yeah, it's good. Romily, I'm gonna get one of my favorite Outlander, because I have this disorder, just like Mel Gibson's character in that one movie about paranoia, that he's always picking up copies of Catcher in the Rye. I do that with Outlander. I always pick up copies of Outlander wherever I am. So I'm going to get one, and I'm just going to tear out that chapter that you're talking about, and I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah, I like it. I like it for her.
I am working on, actually, I have finished and turned in, and as of Tuesday, actually, is going to copy edits my 2015 novel, which is titled, I believe it is going to remain titled, A Madness So Discreet, which is a Gothic historical set in an insane asylum in the 1890s. And that is behind me, except for copy edits once that gets to me. But that's finished, so I'm actually taking a really big break from writing right now, which is really convenient because school just started, so I have to go back to my regular job. But I'm reading Side Effects May Vary by Julie Murphy right now.
So is Not a Drop to Drink just a duology then, or is there going to be a three?
Yes, Not a Drop to Drink and In a Handful of Dust are, that's it, there won't be any more that I know of. A lot of people have asked me if I am going to write any more about Mother and Stebbs and the adult characters, and maybe write about them when they were younger, when they were teens, and the shortage actually occurred, which is something that I might consider. But right now, I'm really happy to be in this different world where people are crazy and they wear corsets. So.
Well, what I am working on right now, so I've already turned in Trust Me, but I'm waiting on editorial notes. So right now I'm kind of between books at the moment, trying to figure out what I want to do. Working on, I could finish Lauren's story, and Lauren's Wick's best friend. I did that when I was in kind of like a manic phase, like last fall, and didn't get a chance to finish it, but I needed something to keep me occupied between books 2 and book 3. And then I have 2 middle grade projects, and then 3 ideas for 3 very different YAs, which I turned into my agent, and I was like, which one do you want? And she said, yes. And I'm like, yeah, which is like a good thing to, it's a good problem to have, but I was like, yeah, I don't want to write proposals on all 3. And she's like,
write them all, Romily. Write them now.
So it's like, so yeah, I am. So I guess that makes technically like 5 projects kind of up in the air, which probably is a good place for me. It'll keep me from going stir crazy and like pulling all the carpet fibers like out of the carpet or something ridiculous. And I'm also reading. Right now I'm reading School for Good and Evil, A World with No Princes, and I Am the Messenger, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. Yeah, I don't read. I usually read 2 or 3 books at one time. Again, it's the ADD. It's terrible over here.
The School for Good and Evil was amazing. My daughter finished that. The first one, she finished it in a day, which that was awesome. And it's getting turned into a movie.
Yes, he's fantastic. He's such an impressive author. It's so much fun to read. I love all the inside jokes. I mean, and the commentary on men and women and the way we raise girls and boys. I mean, and fairy tales. It was
amazing. And it's like I didn't realize until like I was halfway through the first book before I realized that it was a guy that wrote this, and I was just blown away. Yeah, because it's not something you normally see. Well, I'm reading Girl on a Wire, and then Illusions of Fate.
Oh, yes.
Oh, pretty. I love that cover. It's so pretty. Okay, the next question is, why did you decide to write YA?
Why did I decide to write YA? Mostly because when I started writing YA, it was what I was mostly reading. And it was just something that I really, really love to read. And especially coming from a historical romance kind of background where I don't want to say constraints, because it's not really constraints, but there's, especially a historical romance, there's expectations that are pretty solid for what you need to produce. And with YA, I just sort of felt like it's wide open. You're so much more free as a writer. You don't have to have a happily ever after, as we've seen with a lot of popular books. So it's just, it allowed me to really stretch as a writer and try new things. So I started writing it just for fun. Haven was my for fun book that I was writing between my contracted historical romances. And, it didn't take long for it to be that's what I really enjoy writing. And in fact, I've stopped writing the adult romance stuff because now I'm just writing YA pretty much full time.
My answer has less to do with good emotional reasons, and it's much more practical. I started writing YA because that was what was selling. I had written 4 adult books before that, and I didn't have an agent. I had been trying to get published for 10 years, and to be fair, those books were really bad. I've gone back and read them. They're horrible. They deserve to be ignored. But there's a little thing at the bottom of your query letter when you're trying to get an agent. It's called your bio, and I have there's nothing to recommend me as a writer, and I don't have any qualifications to be a writer other than that I am one. So when it comes time to write your bio for your query letter about, you know, how cool you are and how interesting you are and why you're the person to write this book, and I didn't have anything to say. Well, I'm a YA librarian, and I was sitting in my office one day, and I had been a YA librarian for about 12 years, and I'm sitting in my office, and I think, you know, I really could utilize the fact that I'm a YA librarian, and I have a bio that can say, I'm a YA librarian spending 40 hours a week with my target audience and completely immersed in the market. There you go. That's a great bio. And so I actually started writing YA so that I would have a bio for my query letter. That's why I started writing YA. And that's like a horrible answer, because then I tried it. I started writing YA, and it was really cool because, like Kristi said, there actually is a lot of freedom, because you don't have to write about a character that has to go to work and sit there for 8 hours, and you have to make it interesting, and then they come home and they have to make dinner. Who cares? Nobody cares. Yuck. I mean, I do that all day, and I don't care. So it's just like nobody wants to write about that. So it was really cool because I started doing it for the wrong reasons, and then I ended up liking it for a good reason.
I love that story. Mine's kind of similar, actually, to Mindy's. So I started off writing women's fiction, and I was told my heroine was way too witchy, although the fancy New York agent that I somehow landed in front of used a different word. So I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to write historical, because I had a literature degree and I specialized in Victorian British literature. So I was like, all right, I'm going to write historicals. So I wrote 2, and guess what? My heroines are too witchy. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to write a YA. I'm going to write a YA paranormal, because, you know, it seemed like fun, and I wanted to. And all of a sudden, it was, oh my gosh, your heroine is so funny. She's snarky, and I knew I'd found my people. All of a sudden, I wasn't a witch. I was, you know, right, sarcastic. And so that's how I pretty much knew, like, okay, I figured out where I needed to be. I just, unfortunately, I wrote a paranormal at a time that it was very difficult to sell a paranormal, so I swapped it around and wrote a thriller. And yeah, it's, I had 4 books, 246 rejections before I got my first yes. So for all of you guys who are out there who are trying to get published, you know, still waiting on that, you know, that phone call, it does happen. You just have to keep at it and be willing to reinvent yourself.
I need to go grab another bottle of water. So let's talk about reviews. Do you read your reviews? Do you like reading your reviews? Do you read your bad reviews? And I'll be right back.
I read reviews. I read not all reviews, like I don't go hunting them down and, you know, obsess over them or anything, but I'm perfectly happy to read reviews, and I enjoy the bad reviews as much as the good reviews. Especially the really thoughtful bad reviews. I'll even go on to say that, you know, criticism in bad reviews, that, you know, there's times I'm like, oh my God, that's so right, I do that. And it sort of directs some of my writing sometimes. So, you know, I do take constructive criticism. But, you know, I don't obsess over it. I know some authors that will be, you know, devastated when they read a bad review, and I guess after all these years I have pretty thick skin, and so it doesn't bother me, and if it doesn't bother me, I'm perfectly happy to read them.
Kristi's a really good person. I do not read my reviews. I don't even read good reviews, because I look at reviews. I started out reading them, don't get me wrong, because I compare reviews to, like, if you're in middle school and you wrote a note that said, do you like me, circle yes or no, and then when it came back to you, you were just like, never mind, I'm not going to look at that. So I did read them in the beginning, and then I stopped, because I realized that in a lot of ways it wasn't actually, it didn't matter, because if I read a good book, if I read a good review, it just made me feel good about myself. And obviously, I already think I wrote a good book. So having someone say, you know what, you're right, you did write a good book, that doesn't, it doesn't change anything. And I don't want to ever have an ego. So I don't read good reviews and I don't read bad reviews because they don't upset me, but they certainly don't make me feel good. So, and even if I did, like Kristi is saying, you might actually come across something that is right. And I'm not saying that that's not true, because there are definitely, I will occasionally read a bad review, or I did in the beginning, and I'll be like, well, they're right. They just made a really good point there. And it's too late. The book is done. I can't fix it. And I am a perfectionist. And if I can't fix it, then I don't want to know what's wrong. So I don't read them anymore. I'm done with that.
Yeah, I can understand where both of you guys are coming from. I don't read reviews usually. I'm very grateful for everybody who reads and takes the time to review Find Me or Remember Me. There are a lot of books out there that you guys could pick from. I really appreciate you all, anybody who's trying mine. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, I try to stay away from them just because you're right. Once it's out there, I can't do anything to change it, and it'll just drive me crazy. And I have insomnia that's bad enough, so I don't need to be staying up and thinking about oh shoot, they're so right, about I should have caught that. I should have caught that. Why didn't all of us catch that? Because by the time your book actually hits stores, it's probably been through 10, 11 people's hands, at least. Your copy editors, your editors, your critique partners, your beta readers. And sometimes, it happens and it bums everybody out. So I'm super grateful when people take the time. I just, it's probably not the best thing for me to do. Usually I don't read my professional, positive reviews. Like when my editors send them over to me, I usually just pretend I haven't seen it. It's about the project for me. And it's about trying to move forward with the next project. And so half the time, like at this point, I'm all focused on Trust Me and Remember Me is coming out. So going back and looking at what I did right in Remember Me, I'm like, I'm already done with that. I'm moving on. I need something else. Yeah, I'll probably be avoiding those. Although I do really appreciate everybody who does them. I mean, we have a wonderful community of book bloggers, and they're very, very savvy. So it's been great interacting with them.
The next question is, do you have a daily goal on how many words you write every day?
That would be a big fat no for me. I mean, if I'm under deadline and there's days where I only have 2 weeks left, and then I'll sort of break it down and figure out how much I need to write per day. But on a normal, regular day, no, I'm just happy if I do write something.
Yeah, I'm like Kristi because I don't write every day. I'll go very, very long time without writing, sometimes 6 to 8 months. So no, I don't write every day. I don't write every month. There's probably been times in my life where I didn't even write once a year. But I write whatever's required of me. I will write until the scene is finished, no matter how long that's going to take. I need to have an organic stopping point in order to stop, but I also feel like I need an organic starting point, because starting again is very hard. So I will write until the scene is over, and then I make a little note to myself about what I'm going to write next, or maybe a little snippet of dialogue or something, so that when I come to it the next day or the next month, whenever I come back to it, I'm not walking into a bucket of cold water. I'm like, oh, that's what I wanted to do. That's where I'm going next. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point that Mindy's making, because they want you want to hook end your chapters on these great hooky endings, but sometimes that's a great way to place to end the night. But then picking it back up the next morning, you're like, oh crap, now what do I do? I wrote I typically would just try to write myself into corners, but then I have to think my way out, and usually that involves a lot of gnashing of teeth and pulling out my hair. Yeah, actually I have a set word goal. I try to do 2,000 words a day. I'm just finally getting back to that point where I am doing 2,000 words a day. After I sold Find Me, I was actually so paralyzed by the fact that I did sell, after so much rejection, that I don't think I could even write See Jane Run for a while there. I mean, it was horrible. And for someone who was used to, a fairly high output, this was torturous, and I was beside myself, and yeah, so I think I ended up with like a year-long, maybe year-and-a-half-long like writer block where it's pulling this stuff out of me was really hard, but I'm just now getting back to the point where it's about 2,000 words a day, and I'm switching back and forth between two projects, and that's working so far. Of course, now that I've said that, it's all you watch. Tomorrow I won't be able to do anything at all.
All right. The next question is for series. Do you find yourself going back and having to like read your finished copies to be able to start on the next one in the series?
For writing series, yeah, I did. With my Haven series, I totally read the finished copies. See, I read reviews, I read finished copies. I guess I like to torture myself, but yeah, I always read through the previous book right before starting the new one in the series.
My answer is no. I will never read a finished copy, ever. And it's not because, I mean, there's two reasons. It's because, yes, partly it's because I know there's one typo that is just a ginormous worth in Not a Drop to Drink, and people...
I was talking about like when you
What's
were
that?
writing, I was talking about like when you were writing in Handful of Dust, would you have to go back and like remind yourself about like the story and stuff to be able to write the next book in the series?
Nope. And even if I would have had to, I wouldn't have done it because I don't want to look at it. It's not something that's, well, it's a little different too because In a Handful of Dust takes place 10 years after Not a Drop to Drink, so continuity, it wasn't a problem. The other thing is that when you are writing a series, the publisher provides you with what's called a style sheet, and so it has your characters listed by name and also their physical description. So if you're like, gosh, I can't remember what was, and I mean down to the animals that are in your book. If there's an animal that has a name, it's listed on the style sheet. So if I'm going through there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't remember what was the name of the stuffed animal. I can look at the style sheet and it's on there. I don't have to read my finished copy or reference it, and I'm really glad because I don't want to read my own writing that is solidified, that has been concreted into a print book, because I know that I'll read it and I will hate it. I will think, oh my gosh, I can't believe you wrote that. I can't believe it got published. This piece of dialogue is so bad. I would get really frustrated with myself, and I can't change it now. So I don't reference my own stuff when I'm working. I depend on that style sheet.
Yeah, I agree with Mindy. I really try to avoid possibly ever reading my finished books, period. I hate pretty much everything I write. You know, I mean, it's like sort of this weird sort of like self-loathing and like, you know, but you're pushing forward, you're making yourself do it, but you hate yourself for doing it. It's like it's this just tangled sort of emotion of, I don't know why writers probably are crazy.
Oh yeah, we're nuts.
Yeah, I cannot imagine anybody normal trying to do this. But I'm feeling really stupid because it never really occurred to me to go back to my style sheets to look at that stuff for the Wick series. I totally should have done that. But like mine were the books were taking place like almost on top of each other. You know, there was just a few months in between them, and then I actually ended up for the third one, I mined a lot of characters back for the second one. So actually I had to go back into Remember Me to pull things that I was going to springboard off of and Trust Me. And yeah, it was just that sort of cycle of, oh my gosh, did I really do this? Did I have a plot hole here? Oh, wait, you know, no, I fixed it. No, I did. Wait, no, maybe there's something else. You know, I mean, and so you like fall down like this vortex of like self-loathing and paranoia, and I mean, it's so, oh my goodness, it's such a mess. So yeah, for this particular series, I jumped a lot back into Remember Me to just sort of deal with that aftermath. And then for Remember Me, I had to think a lot about like, okay, based off of what happened in Find Me, what would that look like? Like, what would the fallout be? But luckily, I didn't actually have to go back and reread Remember Me to be able to do, I didn't have to go back and reread Find Me to do Remember Me, but I did have to reread a fair amount of Remember Me to do Trust Me. And yeah, so that was fun. That's its own special sort of good time.
I do think it's a mark of all, like, I don't think I know any writers that don't absolutely hate. I mean, I do go back and read mine, but it's a given that we all hate it and think it's awful and
Yes.
are crying the whole time that we do it. And, you know, if someone were to tell me they wrote something and they thought that it was fabulous and they loved it, I would think they were weird, because that, to me, is very unusual for a writer, at least the ones that I know.
Yeah,
that's-
absolutely.
That's really nice to hear from someone who's, you know, a seasoned author like you are, Kristi. That's good. That's good to know. I don't know if it's a good thing that this is normal or a bad thing that this is normal, but at least, you know, hey, we're all in this together, right? Misery Loves Company.
It's our normal. It may be weird, but it's our.
There you go.
That's right.
The next question is, what is one of your favorite books or authors?
Well, beyond Harry Potter and the Hunger Games, I guess I would say right now I'm really loving Stephanie Perkins' books, the Anne and the French Kiss and Lola and the Boy Next Door, just because they're so uncomplicated. Like, I also teach creative writing in the summer, and I do so much like breaking novels down to, you know, the goals and the motivation and the conflict, and I just feel like her books are, you know, they're sometimes hard to break down into those little nitpicky things, and yet as a whole they work so wonderfully, and they're uncomplicated in a way, even though the characters are very complicated, and they just made me really, really happy. So, and also she writes really nice boys. Like, her boys are all nice boys. And I have to say I got a little fatigued of all the bad boys, bad attitude, but hot body, you know, like that kind of glutted the market a little bit. So I was so relieved, and this is why I love PETA, and it's why I love, you know, Harry Potter too, that I actually think there is a place in the marketplace for really nice boys. And I love that Stephanie writes nice boys. So for me right now, those are my happy comfort reads.
I have a completely opposite answer to Kristi. My favorite book of all time, my book to take onto a deserted island, all that stuff, is The Stand by Stephen King. I have probably read it 3 or 4 times. Every time I read it, I get a head cold. And I love it because it is so complicated. There's so much going on in those books. I mean, you're dealing with obvious post-apocalyptic survival, but also, you know, there's a love story. There's a few love stories. There's a lot of, you know, social things at work there. I'm trying to think of a better way to put this, but there's just so much going on in the book. I mean, there ridiculously obese people. There are, you know, coked out rock stars. There are pregnant teenagers and good old boys from Texas, and they're all thrown together, and they all have to survive in a world where a line is being drawn between good and bad, and there's no gray anymore. There is in each person, but they have to make their decision which side of that line they're going to stand on, and the world is ended. The world has ended, and then it gets worse. I mean, it's like, that's awesome. What a great book. I love that book. It's amazing.
I'm surprised you didn't say Outlander.
I love Outlander. I love Outlander too. And it's also an amazing book that I have read 3 or 4 times. And every time I read that book, I don't, like, get a head cold or end up pregnant or in Scotland or anything. Like, I don't have a great anecdote for that one.
For me, I don't know that I'd be able to pick just like one writer. Like I thought, and forgive me, I'm probably going to butcher names. Marcus Zuzak for The Book Thief. I mean, that was beyond brilliant. I mean, Suzanne Collins, J.K. Rowling. I really enjoy Dennis Lehane. If you haven't picked up anything from him, he's an adult writer, but he's fabulous. Lisa Gardner, I think, does a fantastic job with just emotionally hard-hitting thrillers. I hate that question about, like, you know, who's your favorite, because it's like picking among, like, I don't have kids, but if I did, I would imagine it's like picking among your kids. You know, I mean, it's just there's so many really good authors who are playing at the top of their game right now. Gosh, I have so, and I swear I think my favorites, like, they change weekly sometimes. I go through so many books.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, are you a full-time writer or do you have an outside job?
No out-of-the-house job for me, not since I started writing, although recently I have started working as an editor. I did some freelance editing for a while, and now I'm an acquiring editor with a small press, with Spencer Hill Press, but no outside-of-the-house job for me other than writing or thinking about writing.
I work full-time. I am a YA librarian, and so I do work 40 hours a week, and I try to write a book a year. So that keeps me pretty busy.
I'm a full-time writer right now. I was doing HR, like corporate HR and corporate compliance for a multinational there for a while, which was fun to explain to legal about, yes, just because I'm writing about hackers doesn't actually mean I know how to do any of the stuff that I'm talking about in my book. As far as I'm concerned, like, you know, hamsters could be like running my computer just like really, really hard on some sort of wheel. You know, that's pretty much, sadly, that's about as far as my technological expertise goes. I have to rely on a lot of research. But yeah, at the moment I'm actually writing full time.
The next question is, since writing your first book, how do you think you have evolved as a writer as well as creatively with your stories?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. I mean, my first book, like I said, was historical romance. So, I mean, the biggest change for me as a writer was when I was writing the romances. They were loosely related. You know, minor secondary characters became main characters, but they weren't. It wasn't like a real series. So the biggest growth for me as a writer was when I wrote the Winter Haven series and actually writing 3 books that really were sequels and sustaining a big story arc over the 3 books while, you know, maintaining an individual story arc with each book. So I guess I would have to say for me that was the biggest development, was learning how to go from writing a standalone book to stretching myself out to writing a series, which is really different and takes a lot more pre-planning, or I'm not a planner or a plotter, so, you know, but you still have to have a much bigger picture in your mind, and it was really difficult. So I guess that was the biggest growth for me as a writer. I hope I answered that.
I think that for me the answer is that I decided to write this Gothic historical, and one of the reasons why I spurt wrote that so badly and that I wrote the vast majority of it right next to the deadline is because I was too intimidated by the subject matter. It required about a year and a half of research to even make me qualified to write on the subjects that I'm writing on, and I was scared. I was intimidated. I didn't think that I was worthy enough to deliver the book. The voice and even the sentence structure is entirely different from Not a Drop to Drink. Everything in Drink and in Dust are very sparse. Everything is sparse. Everything is very minimalist. And then in my book for 2015, the language is entirely different. It's taking place in 1890. Everybody has a completely different style of speech, and so therefore the narrative sections around it also changed. So I was definitely worried about my ability to deliver on that, and I hope that I did it. So we'll see, but that was definitely how I changed and developed as a writer, going into a completely different voice and style from my previous books.
For me, it was really trying to sort of learn to control my voice. I do a lot of emotional, like visceral responses, and it was really trying to like dial those back a notch. I remember my agent telling me at one point, everyone is having, sorry, my dog. Everyone is just so like almost over the top, like, in your manuscript. So we went through, like, everyone is just really feeling it. And I was like, well, yeah, you know, I mean, of course. And but she's like, no, you need to learn to like control this a little bit more, so it has more impact when you use it. So we actually went through 2 rewrites on Find Me before we took it out, and it, you know, it was really learning to sort of like time those emotional responses so you're getting the most impact out of them. That to me was that's something that I continue to work on and to be aware of.
The next question is there something that you have always wanted to be asked but haven't?
I'm so boring. No, not that I can think of. I mean, no, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, not that I can say on a live Google chat, no.
Yeah, I'm out too. I think we've covered almost everything with all the blog posts that I've done over the past few years. I think I've been asked everything except my social security number.
We don't need to know that one. Okay, the next one is how much research and travel went into writing your book?
Talking about Magnolia, I actually went to college in Mississippi, so I feel like the research mostly was talking to my sorority sisters from my college days who still live in Mississippi. I did a lot of shooting questions off to them, but otherwise, most of it was I know these people, I know these kind of families, and I know these kind of kids. So, and then the storm, there's a big hurricane and tornadoes that come through. I'd all lived that already too, so that book required much less research and any sort of travel than anything else that I've written.
My research for Drink and Dust was pretty much zero. Well, not really. I shouldn't research. Researched a ton for both because there are actually quite a few elements at work in both of them, hard science. But as far as travel, I did zero. Drink is basically set in my backyard, and Dust actually takes place across the entire United States. But we have the amazing ability to just go to Google Maps and the old version, drag the little yellow guy over to the map where you want to be or where you want your characters to be and drop him down and make him around 360 so that you can see what it looks like, and then you describe it in your book and you're done. That is an amazing tool. I love it so much. So that was, no travel. Now for A Madness So Discreet for 2015, I did go to an insane asylum that is no longer in use by the insane. I went to an insane asylum that had been built in 1840, and it is in Athens, Ohio. And I traveled there because that is also the setting that I used for the book. So actually for that book, but that was the first time that I had met. Tons of research for all 3 of them. The most definitely for Madness So Discreet, which I did research for about a year and a half before I even started writing that novel.
I didn't actually have to do any traveling for Find Me because I made the either smart move or enormous mistake, depending on how you look at it, of setting it in the same town I live in. So we're in a suburb of Atlanta, and my husband was actually working for City of Peachtree City when I was writing it. So all the places that are in Find Me and Remember Me actually are real places, which was a little awkward to explain to his boss because if you've ever read Find Me, you know that it's not exactly the most lovely portrayal of police officers, or some of the surrounding people who live there, which it wasn't intentional. It was just that was the way the story went, and but it was kind of funny because at one point Wick actually uses the Peachtree City Library for inappropriate, for inappropriate uses, shall we say. And so when the librarian actually, she was reading through it, she was like, "Oh my gosh, please tell me you didn't, none of those. That's none of our staff that's in there." And I'm like, "No. I felt really bad because I had forgotten completely about that scene before I gave her the book, and then I remembered as I was leaving, I was like, "Oh, this is going to go badly." But she was really funny about it, and she was really gracious. But yeah, as far as like the research goes, I'm so not a techie person. I had to do a lot of research to figure out like okay, how would exactly this work, and what, if you were going to do a virus, what would that look like? And thankfully, I'm married to someone who's very techie, so that worked out for me. I usually could just wander down the hallway and be like, hey, about this, and he would say, no, hamsters do not run the computer. Stop it. But so there was a lot of research and then a lot of puzzling out like how to say that in a way that sounded natural and not like I was like info dump. And now, readers, we're going to look at computer viruses. So yeah, it kind of kicked me.
Okay. The next question is there a message in your books that you want readers to know?
As a writer, I try not to think about messages as I'm writing them. Like, I hope that the stories that I tell do have, positive messages that people will take out of there, but I don't ever intentionally, I think one of the worst things you can do when writing to teenagers is to think, oh, I'm going to teach them this lesson, that is the last thing that I think readers want is to have like some moral lesson hit over the head with them. So I avoid that as I'm writing, and I think it just sometimes is organic to the story, but it's not any intentional message that I would, have come up with myself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree with Kristi 100%. If you say to yourself, I want to write a book that teaches teens this, you're not going to want to read it, so you failed them and yourself. I don't write with a message. There are definitely themes in my book, and for Drink, the theme of being aware that line that I was talking about earlier between good and bad doesn't necessarily exist. There's an area between good and bad that's gray. And that is a huge part of my book, because in Drink, Lynn, my main character, her mother has taught her that you take care of yourself, and her mother would kill, has killed, and continues to kill in order to protect her daughter. And killing people is wrong. Yes, that is easy to make. But when it becomes, would you kill people who were taking your only method of providing your family with a clean drink of water, that becomes gray. And so the second that happens, you've got a big question with all kinds of side arguments that can come up, and there's no right answer. And I think that in itself is a good lesson for teens to learn, that there is no right answer to most things. There are plenty of things that there are perfectly right answers to, but a lot of questions don't have one right answer.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I would also dovetail onto that by saying, I don't write with messages. I think YA readers get a lot of crap from the media and sometimes from adults. But they are some of the savviest readers that are out there. I mean, it's like they can really pick up on what you're trying to say with your book. If you try to shoehorn a message in there, it just comes across as condescending. And frankly, they don't need it. Most of them are picking up on themes and gray areas and what you could really do with, if you were presented with like this moral dilemma. They can articulate it better than a lot of the adult readers that don't consider themselves YA readers can do. It's been a very, very interesting area of publishing to work in. I'm continually impressed by the savviness of our readers. But yeah, one of the things that my editor said when she bought Find Me was that you actually don't have any good characters. She said pretty much everybody in there is, they're just different shades of gray. And I hadn't thought about it until she pointed that out. And then I was like, wow, you're right. I mean, pretty much everybody is willing to make, when it comes down to making a hard decision, like what that would look like for each person, and in Remember Me, to do a little bit of a sort of a teaser, Wick actually, she contributes to someone's murder, but how I kind of take you over that line as a reader, it's like it ends up feeling justified, but at the same time, is it really justified? Because you end up with a dead body. I mean, she had, she helped have someone killed. But, does that work for you? Does that not work for you? I mean, there's not really a message there. It's pretty much just, the reader's there to decide for themselves, kind of the same way that Mindy was discussing in Drink, and the way that she examined it with Lynn and her mom.
The covers of your books, were they the first ones that were they the first ones that it had, or were there others? And do you like what ended up on the published book?
The majority of my cover is what I first saw. The very first time I saw it, the couple was there, and they were sitting on the fence, and the background was the same. The background just looked a little bit like a Kentucky horse farm. So there was a little bit of me saying, you know, that's not Mississippi. And I think I even said, is there any way we can get a house? You know, that their houses play a big part of the story. So they redid the background just to make it. I actually had a sorority sister in Mississippi who's a photographer stopping and snapping pictures of the countryside as she drove around, and I was emailing it to them going, okay, this is what Mississippi looks like, people in New York who've never been to Mississippi. And now it at least is a better representation. It doesn't look like Kentucky anymore. And the couple, I'm happy with the couple. I think it does a pretty good job of giving the spirit of the book. So I actually kind of like the cover.
I was shown 2 different comps for the cover for Not a Drop to Drink, and one of them, they were both really good. They were both very attractive. But the cover that ended up being my cover was a better representation of the book, and I am so pleased with it. It is an amazing book, and it is amazing. It's an amazing book. No, it's an amazing cover. And one of the things that I'm so happy about with it is because as a YA librarian, I see male readers making a lot of decisions about covers because they don't want to be carrying around a book that looks girly. Even if it's a book that they would totally love, they don't want to be seen carrying that. So I love, and I think that the vast majority of publishers are highly aware of this, and they do a great job of making unisex covers. But I'm very pleased that my cover specifically, and Romily, yours too, is very, a boy can carry that book around and not have to worry about being made fun of. And so I'm really pleased with my cover in that way. And I got my finished copies of In a Handful of Dust the other day, and I don't have a copy of Drink right here with me, but they look just side by side. Here we go. Jessica's going to hold up. There we go. Side by side, they look just, here, wait. Okay. Side by side. There she did. Okay, perfect. Side by side, they look absolutely amazing. There's like a color fade in, fade out. Like they look fantastic. Harper did a beautiful job. I'm so pleased. And to go on, I have to share this too because I just got them today, and I'm just like, my mail's been fun lately. This is the German cover of Not a Drop to Drink, and just as a testament of how resilient this cover is, they used the same cover in the German edition of Not a Drop to Drink, but they made it yellow. So it's pretty awesome.
It looks zoomed in, like they got closer.
Yeah, I think they might have a little bit. Like the sky is a little bit different. Some of the clouds are a little bit different. But yeah, I was so pleased with. I think it's just, like I said, it's a testament to the resiliency, I think, of the cover, because a lot of the times your foreign cover editions are so, you know what, you rub your face on it, so it's got a really...
I like the way it feels. Like this is all, and then you can feel the letters, and then you can feel the water.
The German edition's the same way. It's got that matte thing going for it. In a Handful of Dust.
It's the ARC.
Yeah, see, you need the hardcover because it's got the matte feel, and then you can go like that.
Well, you still owe me 2 copies of this one for October anyway. So.
Oh, I do? Okay, perfect. Well, here, and I'll send you a German one too because it feels good.
But I don't know German.
I love that. I didn't get any say-so in my cover, but I'm so, like, I lack all artistic talent whatsoever, so I didn't want to give any input. But yeah, no, I think Joel did a fantastic job. I mean, he's incredibly, incredibly talented, and I tell everyone that I am clearly his favorite author because, like, he gave me such awesome covers. I'm probably not by his favorite author by like a long stretch, but they came out beautifully, and I was so excited with them. And yeah, I actually squealed like a 3-year-old, like hopped up on Red Drink. I mean, it was the first time I saw the Find Me cover, and then I love the Remember Me cover about how, you know, it all kind of coincides together. So yeah, Harper does an amazing job with how they present their product. We're very lucky.
The next question is, if you could talk to your main character, what would you think you would say?
Oh man, if I could talk to Gemma, I would tell her to get over it. He's clearly a great guy, and I'm not sure how, you know, talk to the guy. That's what I would tell her. Talk to him. If you talk to him, you would figure it out and get over the problem pretty quickly.
I think if I tried to talk to, I think I would just have to duck, really, with my main character. You don't really talk to her. You just approach slowly and cautiously. And I don't know. Just find some way to identify myself clearly before I am in her range, I guess. If I were going to, I might give her a good recipe for canning or something so that she has a little bit more spice in her diet, maybe. She probably gets tired of all those vegetables. You know, I think she did it. She kind of grew on her own, and she did a good job of maturing and getting over it, as Kristi said. So, like, she kind of took care of that. I'd tell her to, like, maybe relax a little bit. Buy a hot tub. Buy a hot tub, what I'd say.
Okay, I love Kristi and Mindy even more now after those comments. Those are fantastic. I think for Wig, it'd just be like, damn, girl, that looks like it hurts. You know, because at the end of, like, Find Me, she's injured. At the end of Remember Me, she's injured. Clearly I have issues because I can't do her. But yeah, it's like, oh, dang, girl, that's smart.
Okay, the next question is, what do you write with? Pen, pencil, computer, smoke signals?
Oh, I only write on the computer, and I'm not even one of those people that can be in different rooms of my house. I have to be in my home office on my desktop, or I can't write.
I write straight on the computer. I edit on the computer, everything on the computer. And I write in bed. I don't have an office. I write in bed, I lay down, and I write. And I pretty much do write in the same place. I can write in other places. Now, I have not mastered the ability to write in public. I've got too much, I can't be distracted. I was on tour last year with Michelle Gagnon, who wrote the Don't Look Now trilogy, and she would write on the plane. I was so impressed with that. Michelle, we would be like on our second flight of the day, and Michelle would like get her laptop down in the other compartment, and she'd be typing. Like, what the hell are you doing? I'm writing. Oh, wow, fancy that. I was like, I don't know how you do that. Good for you though.
For me, it's computer all the way for everything. I can write in public. I can write at home. I write in bed a lot. Or on the couch, but you know what the best places to write was back when I had a proper day job, and we would go into like these forecasting meetings where they wanted to talk like finance, like this is what we're doing in China, you know, and I'll tell you what, like nothing can take you down like that lane of where could I hide a body, how can I get away with killing someone, than those meetings. I am telling you, it is like inspiration just hits you, and you look like such a good employee because you're furiously taking notes, and you know they think you're really into it, and you're so not. You know, but the only thing I had to pray is like, so sometimes I'm really ADD, and I always, you know, it's like I wouldn't. You know, I'm sure you've noticed. I always prayed that like I would never accidentally like pass someone my notes, you know, by accident, because I looked like such a good little employee, and I wasn't, and I knew I was going to be in huge trouble the day that someone's like, hey, what was that last pair? You know, what was he talking about in China with the shipping, with the what? And then I'd be like, oh yeah, no, here, and you know, and then they'd realize that I was writing stuff down like, you know. How many gallons of gas, you know, would it take to burn a body? You know, question mark, things to Google later. You know, I mean, it just, I got great stuff done in staff meetings. It was wonderful.
And And then I had one other question, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was because it was one of my questions. So we will just wrap up, and this is where I'm going to put everybody on the spot. You three need to come up with a question to ask the audience, and then they have to answer it on either the Google Plus page, event page, or on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go with something that I was just sort of talking about. Which do you prefer as a reader, the bad boy or the good boy?
Oh boy, you did put me on the spot. Okay. Can you swim? Can you swim?
Okay, so Christy's is bad. Okay. and Romily.
Who's gonna go see If I Stay this weekend? Come on, fangirl with me. Who's going? I'm going.
I went last night.
Was it good? What? Did you like it?
I haven't read the books. So I don't. It was really weird, just the way that it sets out, because it's like you have her, being in the coma in the hospital, and then you have the flashbacks. It was really, I liked it. It made me cry, but I liked it. But toss this on here, and that is so not the link that I needed. Okay, so people who are entering the giveaway, you just go to either link to answer. And there's the first link, and then here's the YouTube page, and there's that one, and that is mandatory. Okay, so that is now officially on there for author questions. Okay, so thank you guys so much for coming on, and we will see Mindy and Romily back here October 11th.
Nice.
Yay!
Which is awesome. And everybody that day, we have you two ladies coming on, as well as Amy Parker and Christina Farley, and everybody is celebrating their release of their book 2 in their series.
Woohoo!
So,
thank you for having us, Jess.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
We so appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes.
I love it. I love doing this.
Cool.
Thanks again for coming on. And thanks for coming back. That's even better.
Oh yeah, no problem.
All right,
I'll try not have my cat sleeping on me 2 minutes before, so that I'm present.
I'll catch you guys, ladies, later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
For those who wish to RSVP for the next show, the two ladies will be on, I am posting the links on the YouTube channel as well as the Google Plus right now. I'll be making up the actual event here in a little bit. That's the event for Facebook to get, you'll end up getting the link and stuff for the show when it airs. To enter the giveaway, I'm posting those links right now. And I actually have copies of three of the books that they had mentioned. So those will also be up for grabs. Just something else to add. So there'll be 10 winners in all, so you can't beat that. And if you don't happen to snag one of the copies, if you watch my website, crossreviews.com, of course subscribe. You can actually enter to win copies via the review as well. So next week, and it's sad I don't remember who's on next week, I have to go to Facebook here. And it sounds like it's getting really, really bad outside. It's getting really windy, and I'm starting to hear thunder. Next week, we actually have adult authors. We have Catherine Bittner Roth of A Duke's Wicked Kiss. We have J.C. Emery of the Bayonet Scars series, as well as Emily I know I'm going to butcher her name. It's Liebert of When We Fall. They will be here next week, so definitely tune in. And then after that, there are no more read-ons until September 20th, which is going to be with Lori Crompton and Holly Schindler of Feral. That actually just released, I think, a few days ago. And Lori Crompton is coming on for Adrenaline Crush, which I have ARCs for. So hope to catch you guys then. And I am getting off of here. In 30 minutes, my book babble will start, so you can stick around and check that out. And I will catch everybody later. Bye.